Hey, what is up everyone? Welcome back to another review, and today I'm taking a look at this right here. Once again, this is another entry grade kit from Gundam Build Metaverse, which is free here on YouTube, just in case you haven't checked that out. This right here is the Build Strike Exceed Galaxy, and this of course is Sei Iori's mobile suit. As usual, this video right here would not have been possible without those absolutely awesome people over at HobbyLink Japan, so if you want one of these of your own, or some gunpla of your own that's not this, then check out that link down there in the description. Now let's jump right on into it. So now jumping into the aesthetics, and here's what this kit looks like, complete with a little bit of panel lining, and I did take these safety flags off the V-fin up on its head. Besides that though, this is exactly what you will get out of a box. Now every time I build an entry grade kit, I expect to be disappointed, but that is never the case. When you see entry grade on the box, you expect it to be somewhat of a downgrade compared to the high grade alternatives of the Build Strike out there. But that, once again, is not necessarily the case. When it comes to entry grade versus high grade, it's not necessarily that one is better than the other. They're two completely different beasts with positive aspects and cons across the board. For example, when it came to 2018's Build Strike Galaxy Cosmos, I wasn't the hugest fan of that kit. It was okay, but not as cool as some of the Build Strikes we would have seen before. This, however, I am very impressed with, and that isn't even considering the price. This right here, going off of the prices on HobbyLink Japan, would be about €8 or so. If I'm not mistaken, it's around the 1,100 yen mark. But the Build Strike Galaxy Cosmos, the high grade from way back when, that was about the 13 mark. Around €13 or so. So this is a decent 30% or 33% less than a high grade kit, yet what you get is still very, very nice. Overall, the plastic inside this kit is great quality. It may be a little bit on the brittle side, so be careful. That does tend to be the case with entry grades. Of course, as usual, you don't need any tools to build this. But overall, this looks good, it looks sharp, it looks impressive. Sometimes the detailing on some of the high grades feels a little bit soft, for the lack of a better word, but this thing is sharp and beautiful. The nice effect parts really give a Gundam Build Fighters feel, and we do have some absolutely beautiful entry grade aspects, like the fact that the eyes are fully color separated and there is no black around them. That is just implied again with shadow. The only down point, like we would have seen with the entry grade La Gundam, which was the last kit that we would have seen from this line, is it doesn't have any stickers or color for the head cameras, so they do look a little bit on the plain side. Otherwise, this is an absolutely beautiful Gundam. We've got nice muted blue on this. I expected it to be the normal Gundam blue, but it is very, very pale. It goes well with the nice pink all over it. Even the center of the V-fin is in that nice effect color, and this is all nice, hard, non-rubbery effect parts. Overall, this is a beautiful looking kit. Entry grades just keep on impressing. So now slapping the entry grade down side by side with the actual art, and as far as I can see, Bandai have completely nailed this. It seems like maybe they're making designs now that can be easily pulled off in plastic, as opposed to needing a lot of stickers like we would have seen in previous iterations of the Build Fighters designs. The only thing that is, of course, missing is the head camera. Is meant to be in a blue lens, as opposed to the fact that there isn't anything here. Simple enough to actually paint or detail up yourself, but again, at the same time, not the biggest issue. Even those Vulcans are color separated. Next up, there's a full 360 spin, so you can see all the details for yourself, and this thing does look fantastic. The amount of sharp angles, very nice crisp corners and details, and the fact that a lot of the aspects, like on the sides of the legs, arms, skirting armors, have been given a lot of raised parts, which makes them look very, very premium. There's a lot of panel lining opportunities here and there too, in order to bring out that extra pinstripey detail here and there. Overall, it definitely is a treat for the eyes, and there is one thing I would mention, however. The plastic on this is extremely, extremely glossy. That is causing a little bit of glare on the camera there and some issues like that, but if you do like your kits looking super, super shiny, this is quite shiny, not crazy shiny, quite shiny out of box. When it comes to the negative aspects of model kits like the mold lines, seam lines, nubs, etc., this kit is definitely a little bit worse than what we would have seen with the La Gundam, probably because it's a more complex design and it is printed out in, well, less parts with more detail on them. So that does mean we do have mold lines all over different surface aspects of this kit that you may want to clean up, predominantly on the sides of the arms there, and when it comes to nubs, those are all along those mold lines. Usually when a kit does have more parts, Bandai can hide the nubs quite well, but not so much with this kit. If you do pull it off the runner in the way that they say that you will get nubs. You'll still get them if you nip it out, so you will need some kind of sanding sticks or a file or something handy to clean those up. As for the seam lines, however, this isn't quite as bad as the La Gundam, and the only real offenders for ones that kind of can be noticed is there is one a little bit in the side of the head, but it is masked incredibly well. I wouldn't even count that one. And the ones in the front of the legs, but those are almost invisible too, so seam lines, not an issue. As for a bit of a size comparison, there it is side by side with the La Gundam that just came out at the exact same time as this kit, the last main Gundam release, which is the high-grade Gundam Aerial, and standard size Gundam, the Oryx 78-2, high-grade Gundam Exia, and high-grade Gundam Barbatos. So now jumping into the accessories, and here's everything that comes inside of the box with the entry-grade Build Strike Exceed Galaxy. So what we get in here is the Galaxy Fighter Backpack, the X-Shield, its weapon which is the beam rifle. We've got the leftover beam rifle from the entry-grade Strike Gundam. We've got this big old beam effect part, and we've got some interesting attachment aspects in here. Very Build Fighters. So pretty much like we've seen with this line, or at least with the La Gundam, we do not have any extra hands in here. So the only hands we have are the block-style fists that you see usually in high grades and entry-grade kits. So no expressive or unique ones in here. However, speaking of unique, we've got some unique stuff going on inside this box. First off, we've got the backpack, which is the Galaxy Fighter. Now, you don't get an action base with this kit. I'm just popping it up, so it gives a nice flight kind of feel to it, but this is stuck into these little 3mm holes down below. So this particular unit, just like the mobile suit itself, is absolutely covered in little slots and parts, definitely making this a nice little adapter for attaching a whole bunch of stuff together. Now, I almost forgot to mention that this kit does have a lot of 3mm holes. We've got some in the shoulders there, we've got ones in the top, we've got some on the sides of the calves there, and on the elbows and the back as well. So this is a kit for really outfitting with some of those Build Fighters kits we would have seen before, with all of those extra joints, which is pretty cool. So when this is not just jetting around as a little fighter, you can actually transform this by popping that part out, and this part then just pops out like so with a 3mm hole for attaching it into that striker pack attachment. Now all my seed kits are kind of packed away, so I don't have any striker packs to try out, sadly, with this particular kit. At first I thought this was a very underwhelming looking backpack. When you take striker packs that are out there, this one definitely is a little bit on the kind of simple side. We do actually have some moving wing segments here that can rotate like so, but there is a lot of potential with those little additional parts around here. So when it does come to the weapons, first up we've got this right here, which is a standard entry grade beam rifle we would have seen before. This is nothing special, it is just 3 pieces slapped together, that's both sides and the sight section up top, and besides that it is just very normal. It slides into the hand just like so, and it's exactly what we would have seen with the entry grade. This is definitely a bonus on the runners, but the manual does mention how to put it together. So the next weapon that we have in here is the actual beam rifle. Now this is a combination of a sword and a smaller beam rifle, which is an interesting design. The smaller beam rifle right here is quite plain, and combining them together is super simple. We also do have 3mm holes either side, which makes it even more customizable. Attaching this into the hand is super simple. Once again, it just slides on in like so. That is all. And that is what it looks like in beam rifle form. Now you can actually expand this even further by using the entry grade system, as it's called. And the Exceed Galaxy can put out a big beam blade, which is actually quite nice. This is a pretty cool weapon. Like I mentioned, this weapon can be split into both a sword and a smaller rifle. So the smaller rifle looks just like so. We'll just pop that in this hand over there. That is what it looks like. And then the sword just attaches in just like so. So of course you use that with that beam we just saw. It pops in like this. And there we go. There is that sword pistol combo. So next up in here, we've got the shield. Now this is extremely nicely layered, just like we would have seen on the La Gundam. So we've got the shiny effect part up front. We've got some white armor right there. Flipping around back, it is in gray, which looks incredibly nice. A simple ball joint attachment right here. We do have this little kind of peg segment right here, which like it would work with the underside of the fighter. And on the sides, then we do have some more 3mm holes. So this can do a whole lot. These are attached on via ball joints, which is incredibly interesting. So they do have a lot of potential with what they can do. So attaching the shield on its usual simple way, it's just a peg into a hole like so, and it attaches onto the side of the arm. This does clash a little bit with the shoulders at times, but not that much. And if that wasn't cool enough, and all the different, well, aspects that are on it being cool, well, what's extra on top of that is the fact you can actually take the beam that we had on the sword and attach that into the clear aspect on the shield, which gives us this bladed shield looking absolutely fantastic. The variation and the variance and the modular aspect of the weapons here is quite cool. So if that wasn't enough arm-mounted weapon awesomeness, then you can actually grab the backpack round back, pop it off like so, transform it back into the fighter mode, and then flip out this little segment on the underside and use that to attach this onto the hand for a literal rocket punch. That is pretty cool. So 2 shield-like arm-mounted weapons. This kit has a whole lot going on, and that isn't even including what we're about to see now. So of course, being a strike variant, that does mean it does have the striker pack attachment round back. But what if you don't want to use a striker pack? That means you do not have the usual double-pointed gunpla adapter until you throw this bad boy in just like so. Now you've got a little bit of everything. 3 different attachment points for attaching on the backpack of your choice, and we do also have a C-clip attachment point as well, meaning this will be super compatible with various 30-minute missions parts. As for trying out a quick backpack, just grabbing aerial rebuild right here, stealing off that backpack like so, trying it out with that backpack adapter to see how well does it fit and if it looks kind of awkward, and the answer is a definite no. That looks extremely good. So with this part, you can actually use this to convert pretty much any high-grade strike into having the standard backpack adapter. That opens up a world of just fun options and customizability. That's pretty cool. And actually, technically, with all the different 3mm holes, you could steal the aerials. Oh, I was going to say you could steal its entire bit on form, but you cannot because this is a slot attachment, not a 3mm peg. So no bit on form for the Exceed Galaxy. Lastly, then, we've got these 2 little gizmos right here, which are just kind of 3mm to 3mm attachment points, which really does line up very well with all the stuff going on here. So just detaching the various parts. So somehow here, I don't know how I did this, but I pressed the record button off when I was talking and doing stuff, and on when I was doing absolutely nothing. But what I tried here was to basically attach on some of the parts, like the shield and the backpack up on the shoulders, kind of like a bit on form, but because of the layout of all the different parts, it didn't really work out. However, you're able to attach all this stuff together really in a kind of fun way, using all of these different parts as adapters. So yeah, these 3mm to 3mm adapters combined with all the 3mm holes on this kit and all of the build fighter stuff out there, you can get a whole lot of awesomeness. So finally now onto the articulation, and everything on this is rock solid but one part. I find the waist joint here is a little bit on the loose side, so when the backpack is on, it tends to drop back when you do try to get it into some positions. That seems to be a bit of a ball joint, but it's only really the forward and back, not the side to side, which is kind of strange. Anyway, the usual pose. So the articulation on this is actually pretty good. Considering how limited a lot of the joints are in themselves, this does get a lot of payoff in the end, especially because we've got some nice ankles and a decent enough ab crunch in here. However, on the whole, you will get kind of some awkward poses one direction, but mainly they are all good, which is incredible considering this kit's budget price point. You do get a whole lot out of it, but once again, these can be a little bit brittle, so be careful with it. Now, I was just trying to turn this around to get some different angles of the pose I had it in, and both the shoulder and the leg fell off at once. The hips in here, these are just ball joint hips, which is a kind of classic style that doesn't work quite as well as the pegs. You don't get the full splits out of a kit, and they tend to work their way off a little bit. Also, I will, mention it right here. The hole in the crotch there is between 2 parts. So that means is when you do, there goes that leg again, when you do have this attached in like so and just move it around, it tends to jimmy the ass off and then get loose on the action base, which is a bit of a crappy design, honestly. However, there really isn't much to complain about here, considering this is sub €10 or sub $10 when it comes to its price point. What it does, for what it's worth, is ridiculously good. It is a very nice kit, and it does some nice poses, and on the whole, he's a fancy boy. So anyway, that right there is it for the review. These ones are so hard to review because just kind of like real grade, they are getting better and better as they do come out. This is of course heavily based on the entry grade Strike Gundam, but does have 2 new runners of parts, making it quite different. It does do everything it needs to do perfectly, so what can I say? Considering its price point, considering how gorgeous it looks and the poses it can pull off, and how unique all of the accessories are, I would be completely doing this dirty if I gave it anything less than platinum tier. This is an incredible kit for the price point, and an incredible kit all round. I do highly recommend it, and I got mine through Hobby Link Japan. You can too, I will throw that link down there in the description. I'm excited to see where this line keeps on going, especially that big, over-the-top, ridiculous thing. But anyway, I will see you next time. As always, this video right here would not have been possible without each and every single one of you guys who watches my videos, and all of these awesome people right here who help out on the channel memberships and over on Patreon, including 10 Soldier YT, Abraxas, Caleb Engelhart, Dashel Marmion, Golel Rockstar, Joe, Lauren Seahack, or G95061, 10 Soldier YT again, and Van Fawn.